Chapter 19. Compass. What do you do when the only right way feels so wrong? Atsumu wakes up with teary eyes, his heart pounding in his chest, the ghost of a kiss on his lips, and the lightest of fingertips brushing his cheek. It's dark outside and raindrops are beating against the window of his room. Atsumu remembers deep black curls and 2 moles above a neat, dark eyebrow. Then he sighs heavily into the emptiness of his room and mutters, "Not this shit again." Osamu, still sound asleep next to him, hugs him tighter. Another dream, another sleepless night. This is getting exhausting. Samu. Osamu grunts in response, keeping his eyes closed as he lies on his back. Atsumu turns to his side to look at his brother, his eyes roaming over his twin's relaxed features. He looks peaceful, calm, in a way, at ease. It's nice. Another nap ends in Atsumu's bed, the place where they currently spend every other night as well. Osamu refuses to leave his brother alone, and Atsumu is torn between being annoyed and being grateful. Annoyed, because holy shit, Osamu is a nagging prick trying to get him back into the daily grind when all Atsumu wants to do is to stay in bed and sleep all day and night. Frankly, he doesn't have the strength or the will to step over the threshold of his room. Hell, he can't even bring himself to pull the covers off his head because the warmth of his bed and the darkness surrounding him sounds so much more appealing than interacting with literally anyone, sucking life energy out of him. Why can't Osamu just leave him alone? Grateful, because yeah, things haven't been easy over the past few weeks and Osamu is still there for him, isn't he? Things still aren't easy and Atsumu is moody as hell and yet Osamu finds exactly the right way how to treat him. Not with kid gloves, not too hard. Why didn't he tell Osamu everything that was on his mind much earlier? It would have saved them both a few nerves. You can sleep in your own bed again, you know. Shut up. Osamu mutters and drapes his arm over his eyes. Scrub, please. I think Rin will kill me one day if I keep you for myself any longer. Will suffocate me in my sleep and choke me to death or something. He'll survive. Yeah, but I won't. Osamu lifts his arm and cracks one eye open, glancing at his twin. You wanna get rid of me? Yes. Osamu kicks Atsumu's shin and Atsumu winces in pain. Osamu scowls at him. Ass. Jerk. That hurt. Atsumu yells and wraps his hands around the stabbing ache in his leg. He can't help but chuckle, though, grinning slyly and keeping his eyes fixed on his brother, who gives him the exact same look. Two idiotic brothers who tease each other and never mean any harm. Sometimes Atsumu wonders how he managed to survive the time without Osamu when he was hardly ever separated from him before. And now it seems crazy to even think that just recently, there was a time when they kept secrets from each other. The twins. Of all people, the ones who were never able to keep shit to themselves. They were fools. Stupid ass morons. But hey, they know better now, don't they? Atsumu is relieved because Osamu is finally completely back in his life. No secrets, no hiding, just the two of them, talking things off their chests. Now that Atsumu has confessed to his brother everything his heart has been hiding, Osamu understands him better. The true relationship with Rin, Atsumu's fear of revealing what happened during their years apart, the reason for keeping it to himself is now clear. Atsumu was scared. He was terrified of losing his brother, of losing another person he must love beyond comprehension. And Osamu's heart aches just as much as Atsumu's does, because he is the only one who understands his brother after all. They are twins. Their bond is strengthened by blood. It was Osamu, who had already lost both his love and his family in these years apart. Osamu, the only one who can feel what his brother is going through. More than 2 years in which he didn't know if he would see Atsumu or Rin again. 2 years in which he was manipulated into believing that they were better off without him. Osamu knows exactly how lonely Atsumu must feel, but that doesn't mean he approves of any of his actions, or that he would ever approve of SakuAtsu, because after all, SakuAtsu is part of the Yakuza, part of the people responsible for their mother's death. Yakuza, those responsible for the worst time of Osamu's life. Inarizuki's assassins have never had a high opinion of these people, but Osamu in particular has lost all respect for them, and for a while, so did Atsumu. But people change, and so do their views. Some things are not what they seem to be, and everyone grows and learns, can change their mind, and understand things better. Of course, Osamu knows that. Still, he finds it astonishing how much his brother has changed when it comes to Yakuza. Not for the better, if you ask him. But then again, he hasn't seen what Atsumu has seen. The kindness, the friendship, the bond that a group of thugs can have. It's not always just about greatness and power. Sometimes it's about making a better life for those you care about. And in Oiko's case, Atsumu has learned that every single member of his gang does, in fact, matter. Even the people beyond them. Hinata, Bakuto, Kiru, Matsukawa, they are all part of something bigger, of a greater picture. It's not just about who works for Oikawa, it's about who is his partner, who he can trust, in whose hands he can confidently put the lives of his friends. Atsumu wonders if Ikoa will ever be able to get 𝒕💑💄💄 back. He also wonders if Kyumi has already left his group. The oh so loyal Sakusa Kyumi. Hey Samu. Atsumu cries again. Softly this time, glancing at his brother with a million questions swirling in his eyes. His throat is dry, and his voice is a little raspy. His heart is beating strongly and something inside him feels strange. There, trapped in his chest, Atsumu looks at his brother as if he could explain the world to him, as if he had the answer to all his questions. Maybe he does. Osamu stares at the ceiling, his arm resting on his forehead. Have you ever loved someone so much it felt like it's killing you? Atsumu blurts out, watching Osamu's Adam's apple bounce as he swallows hard and clenches his jaw. The question catches him off guard. It's like a star from a distant world that Atsumu cannot grasp, as if he can't reach him. So close and yet so far away. And once he does reach him, he leaves wounds behind. Wounds that cannot be healed by anything in the world but himself. Sometimes it feels like that, as if Kyumi had ripped out Atsumu's heart and left a bleeding hole in his chest. The longing for him almost suffocates Atsumu. Knowing that he's sacrificing himself for everyone he cares about makes Atsumu mad and helpless. But there is nothing he can do. You're not gonna die, moron. Osamu replies nonchalantly, but there's this weird, persistent sadness that Atsumu notices in the corner of his eyes, and he wants to slice it away. There are only a few things that he regrets, but hurting Osamu is definitely at the top of the list, closely followed by hurting Kai. I'm sorry I gave you the wrong impression on Rin and me. Shut up, Atsumu. Osamu sighs and closes his eyes. It's not his fault. Terashima did everything in his power to make it seem as if Suna had dumped Osamu for his brother, and if Rin and Osamu hadn't had that stupid argument just before Osamu disappeared, Osamu probably wouldn't have let himself be manipulated like that. Maybe he would never have disappeared in the first place, because he would have been in his right mind and probably he would have stopped Atsumu from this mission, and if he wouldn't have been able to talk him out of it, he wouldn't have let Atsumu exchange that stupid gun for his katana or let him shoot just like that, or he would have realized much earlier than Atsumu that they were up against two former assassins. Because Kyumi is a fucking monster and just his aura screams of a killer, and Osamu would have kept a cool head and, fuck, I should have paid more attention to you. Osamu turns to the side and glares at Atsumu. Should have taken better care of yourself. And Atsumu heard that one before, didn't he? This isn't about me. Yeah. Osamu snaps. It is. Atsumu, this is as much about you as it is about me. Osamu mirrors Atsumu's position and tucks his hands under the pillow. Their gazes are locked as he continues to speak. There's no point in blaming ourselves. Alright. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. That's how it is. Neither of us holds anything against the other, and just cause you think you deserve to drown yourself in guilt or whatever it is that your fucked up mind is telling you, won't change your situation. I'm not mad at you, Atsumu, and I realized that you and Rin didn't have it easy either. You don't have to hold back any longer because of me. It's just, no. Osamu frowns. Didn't Cha just listen? I care about you, moron. Seeing you like this sucks like hell, and trust me, I really wanna stick my knife in Yaomi-kun's chest for making you feel that way. He's not my Atsumu. Osamu looks at his brother reproachfully, knowing full well that Atsumu is avoiding seeing his point. Atsumu, on the other hand, exhales deeply and shakes his head in denial as he glances down at his hands fiddling with the hem of the blanket. You wouldn't be able to do that. Don't fucking care. Rationally speaking, he did the only right thing. Samu, yeah. Cause you're such a rational person. Osamu grumbles. He's an idiot. Shut up. Alright. Osamu's frown deepens. You're both idiots. Atsumu huffs a laugh because his brother manages to make him smile despite everything that's happened. Right now, he's not talking about Kyumi, part of the Yakuza. Right now, Osamu is talking about Kyumi, the love of Atsumu's life. The one he's not allowed to have, to ever call mine. And isn't it nice to see that Osamu cares? That he trusts Atsumu's words, his feelings, despite everything that Osamu himself has ever experienced when it comes to Yakuza? The room feels a little lighter, a small weight lifted from Atsumu's shoulders. All this time he was scared, but there was never a reason to be. Osamu's presence has a way of grounding him, a reassurance that no matter how dire things might seem, he's not alone. Dunno if I'll ever understand this between you two, Osamu muses, shifting his gaze between golden irises, but that doesn't mean I won't be there for you. If everything goes south, we'll still have each other, alright? That will never change. Not ever. Atsumu averts his gaze, his fingers still fidgeting with the edge of the blanket. His heart tightens at his brother's words. It's a reminder of the unbreakable bond they share. Despite everything that has happened, they are still each other's anchor in the storm. Osamu is right. That will never change. I'll never see him again. Samu. Atsumu whispers. The truth of the words lay heavy in his chest. His voice wavers slightly, betraying the emotions he is still trying to hide. How is he supposed to get over this? Over Kyumi? Atsumu can't believe that he ever will. You'll be fine. It will pass. For a split second, Atsumu Atsumu wonders if this is something Terashima told Osamu while the twins were apart. If that's what kept him going through the dark days, the torture, the loneliness, and the edge of madness. He wonders if, in a twisted way, Terashima was trying to protect Osamu too. You'll be fine. You'll be fine without them. You'll be fine because you have me. Because honestly, wouldn't they have killed Osamu long ago if Terashima hadn't taken care of him? I always adored Osamu's pretty crying face. I wonder if you're just as beautiful. Atsumu's grip on the blanket tightens, the fabric bunching beneath his fingers. He exhales heavily and buries his face into Osamu's side. At first, his twin is startled, but then he relaxes and pulls Atsumu closer. Atsumu may be tired, but that doesn't mean his blood is no longer boiling. He wants revenge and sooner or later he knows he will get it. Daisho and Terashima will pay for everything they did to Osamu. Atsumu will take care of that. Promise me you and Rin will be okay. Atsumu murmurs, his voice muffled against Osamu's shirt. Because what Kayumi is to Atsumu, Suna is to Osamu. That one person who makes you complete. That one person you can trust with everything, without batting an eye. That one person who will always be faithful. The only difference is that Suna and Osamu can have each other if they want to. Osamu rubs Atsumu's back soothingly, calming him down. Oh, his hands are warm. Don't worry about us, moron. We'll be alright. Promise me, Samu. Atsumu insists. Yeah. Osamu breathes heavily and drapes his arm back over his eyes. I promise. Dash. The days go by and Atsumu doesn't know if he feels empty or not. Part of him does. The other parts are constantly reminded that he is not alone and that he never will be. When Osamu isn't around, Rin is. When Rin is out on missions, Atsumu has Aaron or Kita or Jinjima or Omimi or literally anyone from Inarizaki trying to cheer him up or to distract him. It's like looking after a 5-year-old toddler who's just been told to keep his hands off some batter, only to dip his little tips in it again 2 seconds later. Because that's exactly how his thoughts about Kayumi keep him in their grip, no matter how much he distracts himself. These thoughts don't just disappear. When Atsumu steps into the kitchen in the middle of the night to chug down some water, he spots Suna taking a sip from his own glass. They end up in a staring contest. No words, just unfazed looks. The fuck is he even doing here? Yeah, sleeping in Samu's room? Atsumu asks, curious about what's going on. Rin nods. You two made up? Yeah, cool. Atsumu says before he opens the tap and fills his glass with water. He takes big gulps until it's empty. Then, he focuses his gaze back on Rin. His arms are crossed, and the glass is still in his hand. I'll make sure I kick him out of my bed soon. What? So he can sleep on the couch? Atsumu snorts. If that's the case, yeah, the one who gets to go back there, sooner Rin, he says softly, his voice tinged with amusement. Wild horses couldn't drag me there and make me give up Samu's bed. Have you ever slept in it? Feels like floating on clouds. Atsumu chuckles. I guess nobody's gonna break your record for how many nights you've spent in Samu's bed. Yeah. Cause I belong in there, ideally with Samu. Atsumu smiles faintly. Now that would be a dream coming true. Atsumu's expression changes. He's grimacing playfully. Or, look at you being all sappy. Duh. I mean we're talking about your brother. Atsumu groans. What a fucking simp. You're incredibly disgusting. Atsumu taunts. I hate you too. Yeah, sure. Suna waves him off. Hate me as much as you want. I'll be staying for a while, though. Just promise me not to bang when I'm here. It's the last thing I wanna hear. Atsumu retorts, raising a brow at Rin. He knows they're two little shits. Shouldn't be an obstacle. Sooner Rin. I can shut him up. You know. Atsumu grimaces in disgust. The last thing he wanted was to know how horny his best friend was for his brother. Thank you very much. Spare me. MHMMM. Suna hums and takes another sip from his glass, eyeing Atsumu over the rim of it. Sure, we can be real quiet. Keep it in your pants or I will chop off your thing. Kinky. Suna slurps. Atsumu scowls. Sunarin. He sighs exasperatedly, scrubbing a hand over his face. Just shut the fuck up. Suna chuckles, pulls an invisible zipper over his mouth to seal his lips, and throws away the key. He elicits a weak smile from Atsumu as well, giving him a warm feeling that at least his brother is on the road to recovery now. And hey, isn't that something? Atsumu sets his empty glass aside and makes his way back to his room, returning to Osamu. Just as he reaches for the door handle, Suna stops him, though, and draws his attention back to him. Atsumu tilts his head, turns his gaze from the corner of his eye toward Suna, and waits for him to speak. You're not alone. It'll pass. Atsumu wished it would. He's sick of feeling how he currently feels. Yeah. He whispers softly. I know, Rin. Thanks. So, it seems like Osamu and Rin have made up again, which means Rin sleeps in Osamu's room while Osamu still crashes in Atsumu's bed for the time being, providing Atsumu mind-blowing all-round care. Fucking annoying. Not really. It also means that both of them are keeping an even closer eye on him now than ever before. Because of fucking course Osamu feels Atsumu's pain. And unfortunately, Rin was the only one of Inarizaki's people who saw Atsumu almost die. Recognizing his pain and isolation, it's child's play for Rin by now. now. It's almost scary. Great. And sure, Atsumu is kind of thankful to them, because if it wasn't for his brother and Suna, he would probably be wasting away in his bed again. They kicked him out of there. Make sure he doesn't spend his days sulking, which can't really be avoided, but at least he's sulking in broad daylight and not buried under blankets and pillows, nearly suffocating himself. And if he didn't have Osamu at night, he wouldn't have anyone to hold him, to wipe away his silent tears when he thinks that no one will see him break down in the dark. There would be no one to tell him that everything will be okay, that he will be okay, that the world won't stop turning. It's so fucking annoying, really. It's not like Atsumu wants to feel this way, it's just nothing he can change. And after all, Rin is right. He's not alone, unlike Kyumi. And honestly, that's the worst part of it all, because Kyumi is alone, deciding to live a life he never wanted to have to begin with. He's alone at the mercy of this bastard who's about to make his life a living hell just to make sure that Atsumu's little self still has permission to breathe, and isn't that fucking unfair? But what can Atsumu do? It was Kyumi's decision to terminate the contract. It was Kyumi's decision to put the lives of his cousin and Atsumu before his own. His decision to grant them freedom while he retreats. The last thing Atsumu can do is show him some respect, accept his decision, and live for Kyumi so that his sacrifice won't be in vain. It makes him moody, incredibly irritable, because how the fuck is he supposed to do that? How is he supposed to forget everything that happened, block it all out, when the only permanent scars on his body remind him of the one man who was Atsumu's whole world? It's impossible. It's so impossible that at some point, Atsumu can't even keep it together in front of Kita or Aaron anymore. And don't get him wrong, he's grateful for everyone, for every single soul here in Inarizaki, but he's fed up, annoyed, drained. It became so obvious that even Kita asked him outright if he was suicidal with his flat face and all, and Atsumu deadpanned a pissed off "fuck you," followed by a click of his tongue and an "I'm not," which could be taken as a yeah, maybe he is, considering he said that right to Kita's face. Oh, he most likely is, 100% for sure. Actually, Atsumu's eyes widened when he realized what he had done and who he was snapping at, and he apologized immediately. Kita waved it off. Osamu and Rin, they will never let this go. So, things do get better, of course. By now, Atsumu manages to get up every day and do something with his life. He spends a lot of time with Kita and Aaron, helps out in the bar or in Omami's aunt's restaurant until Osamu kicks him out because Atsumu is only there to annoy his brother, and eventually, Kita gives them the green light. Rin is allowed to take him on smaller missions again. Nothing big, nothing dangerous, just babysitting a damn toddler. But hey, it's okay. It's better than nothing. Better than moping around. Weeks have passed and Atsumu is slowly fighting his way back to a somewhat normal life. He's okay, he thinks. He's definitely feeling better. His ribs still hurt a little, but it's nothing compared to the hole torn inside his chest where his heart is supposed to be. The cut on his thigh still tugs when he moves, and it feels a little weird. But again, it's nothing compared to the pain he feels when he thinks of Kyumi. Kyumi, the man that he used to despise. Kyumi, the man that he foolishly fell in love with. They say time heals wounds, but Atsumu isn't sure if this one will ever stop bleeding. It's a rainy Friday night in February when Kita tells the twins that the mission that had separated them years ago has finally been cancelled. A rainy Friday night when Atsumu knows that Kyumi has made his decision. Osamu and Rin watch Atsumu warily, but he just sits there, zoning out. That night Atsumu orders whiskey after whiskey until he passes out. This has to stop. Hey, says Osamu and runs his fingertips over Atsumu's scalp. Wanna dye your hair? Atsumu tilts his head and glances up at his brother from where he rests on Osamu's lap. It's soothing. The feeling of Osamu's fingers combing through his hair. It makes him sleepy, lulls him into a state where nothing else matters but a good night's rest. Atsumu's emotions have been a bit overwhelming lately, to say the least. He's slowly getting better, though. Osamu keeps helping him out of the misery he ended up in weeks ago when Kita's news reached them. Atsumu was just about to hit rock bottom when he realized that things couldn't go on like this. So, he decided to ask Osamu to sleep in his own bed again, to join Rin, because Atsumu has to get his life back on track and he has to do this on his own. Of course, that doesn't mean that there won't be any more moments like this. Moments when it's just the two of them, when they're there for each other. Atsumu and Osamu do spend a lot of time together, having some of the deepest conversations they've ever had, and sometimes, like today, they just sit together in silence, the presence of the other being enough to calm each other down. So here they are, with Osamu gently gripping Atsumu's roots and scrutinizing the brown that starts to drive the blonde away. Osamu glares at it. Actually, you could use a haircut too. TSK. Atsumu clicks his tongue and closes his eyes, frowning but leaning into Osamu's touch. You offer? Sure. Out of curiosity, Atsumu tears one eye open and meets his brother's gaze. You're gonna have to touch my undercut. You're not trusting me. I'll do mine too while I'm at it. And dye your hair gray again? Osamu snorts. No way. Atsumu's lips curl into a mischievous grin. He pokes Osamu in the cheek as he says, Rin would love it. Rin would piss himself. Osamu says, poking Atsumu's cheek back and grinning just at the thought of them turning into their teenage selves. Atsumu, too, chuckles at the memory of their teenage antics, his heart feeling lighter than it has in weeks. Don't think it would matter what you do with your hair. Atsumu reaches up and twirls a strand of Osamu's dark hair between his fingers. He stares at it, trying to remember if their mother's hair was the same shade of brown as Osamu's or his own. He thinks it was Osamu's. He'd be infatuated with you either way. Osamu's smile softens. He turns his head to look directly at his brother. Yeah, maybe. Hey, Atsumu says because he has the urge to check in on Osamu too. You and Rin, are you two okay again? The question is lingering between them, heavy with meaning. Okay doesn't just mean whether they have reconciled. Okay means whether things are back the way they used to be, whether everything that stood between them has been resolved, whether all doubts have been removed. Osamu blushes a little and then he nods. We're fine. Atsumu knows Rin is sleeping in Osamu's room, but he doesn't know how Osamu truly feels about their relationship. That is to describe what kind of relationship the two have in the first place. Because everything seems to be exactly the same as it was before Osamu was kidnapped. They were something, but nobody knew what. No labels, no nothing. But it's pretty familiar to Atsumu by now, isn't it? He searches Osamu's eyes for any hint of insincerity, but all he finds is honesty and warmth. It's a relief to know that Osamu and Rin have finally mended their relationship, and Atsumu is genuinely happy that things are finally going in the right direction. Still, if neither of them ends up labeling what they are once again, Atsumu can't help but kick some asses. The last thing he wants is for anything to come between them again, just because they were too cowardly to have a long overdue conversation. Good, he murmurs, his voice filled with quiet contentment. I'm glad. Atsumu nods, a small smile tugging at his lips. He knows his brother well enough to recognize the sincerity in his words, and for the first time in a long while, he feels a sense of hope. Maybe they can finally move forward from the pain and heartache of the past. Maybe this invisible wall that has always stood between them has finally crumbled. The twins sit in silence for a few moments longer, basking in the peaceful atmosphere. Osamu's fingers still card through Atsumu's hair, the rhythmic motion lulling Atsumu deeper into a state of relaxation. And you? He eventually asks, turning his head to look up at Osamu. Are you okay? Osamu smiles, a genuine one that reaches his eyes, and they are finally where they wanted to be. Right? Frankness and honesty. Atsumu recognizes it in his eyes. This is nice. Yeah, Osamu says, and his smile widens. I think we're all good. As Osamu meticulously applies the hair dye, Atsumu lounges comfortably in a chair in the bathroom, his phone held tightly in his hands. The soft hum of conversation fills the room as the twins banter back and forth, Osamu focusing on his task while Atsumu entertains himself with an online mini-game he's playing against Rin, periodically glancing up. Suna is on a mission and waits for his mark to move. In the meantime, he has to sit still, look pretty, observe, and bide his time. And because he is as patient as Atsumu can keep his mouth shut, Suna has asked him to play Super Street Fighter 2 against him. Because of course, they do. Atsumu sucks at fighting games, or any games to be honest, but his ego is too big to ever admit that to himself, which makes it even more amusing for Suna to play against him, because he, on the other hand, has always been a hell of a natural. Osamu smirks as he occasionally peeks over Atsumu's shoulder and watches him lose. No wonder he never challenges Rin. He doesn't need to be humiliated like his brother. Atsumu's phone buzzed with a new message from Suna, drawing his attention away from the game. He reads the message and dies in the match, clicking his tongue and cursing Rin, wondering if he distracted him on purpose. He scowls when he finishes reading, glancing up to look at Osamu through the mirror before him when Atsumu hears his brother chuckling. Moron. Hey, Samu. Atsumu begins, eyes back on the screen. Rin suggested we hang out later. You in? Osamu pauses mid-stroke with the dye brush and glances up from his work, a faint blush dusting his cheeks as he considers Atsumu's proposal. He nods. Yeah, sure thing. Great. Atsumu grins, tapping out a response to Rin. We could meet up at Kita's bar. However, Osamu's reaction is unexpected. He falters for a moment, his movements pausing as a deeper shade of red tints his ears. His blush intensifies, his movements becoming slightly more erratic. Atsumu glances up again. This is weird. Actually, Osamu stammers. I think Kita's bar is cancelled for now. Atsumu arches an eyebrow, suspicion evident in his gaze. His curiosity peaks as he probes. Cancelled? Why? Because it doesn't make sense. The blush on Osamu's face deepens even more, though, and he stumbles over his words, trying to find an explanation. He hesitates, avoiding Atsumu's inquisitive stare, stammering as if there's a specific reason he doesn't want to voice out. Well, Rin and we. Oh my god. Atsumu cuts in and jolts up, realization fawning on him as he watches his brother embarrass himself. He locks his phone and puts it aside, turning around and directly staring Osamu in the eyes. Don't tell me you. Kita-san asked us to close up. Osamu blurts out, the confession tumbling from his lips in a rush. He braces himself for Atsumu's reaction, mentally scolding himself for not keeping his mouth shut and preparing himself for the consequences he's about to face. I dunno, we were talking and it was getting late, and people left but we didn't. So at some point, Kita just left us the key and Samu. Atsumu's eyes widen in realization. He sits up straight in the chair, shock written all over his face. If Osamu tells him what Atsumu thinks he is going to tell him, he is going to lose his shit. Rin was sweet. Pretty cute. Actually, we got carried away. Okay, Mio Osamu. Osamu curses under his breath and rubs the back of his neck, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. He sighs and closes his eyes, pressing his thumb between his pinched eyebrows and tilting his head back to hide from his brother's stares. This is so damn embarrassing. We didn't stop at just talking. He mumbles. Duh. Figured. Osamu sighs. He is so damn embarrassed and Atsumu thinks this is too fucking amusing. Aaron-kun caught us. Atsumu gasps. Then, he lets out a strangled shriek. Aaron. His hands fly to cover his mouth in shock. Oh, you're so fucked. Osamu meets his twin's laughter with a sheepish smile, shaking his head at his brother's colorful choice of words. Yeah, tell me about it, he mutters, cheeks still hot and red. Atsumu's eyes light up mischievously. I bet he gave you a good scolding. What did you two do? Ain't no way I'm gonna tell you that. Alright, yeah. No, wait, I don't even wanna know, Atsumu says, screwing his eyes shut and contorting his face just at the thought of what they did. God. Poor Aaron. He focuses his gaze back on his brother and smirks when he stares him in the eyes, a lopsided grin tugging at the corner of his lips. Osamu clicks his tongue in annoyance and gives him a look that tells him he can't stand what Atsumu is about to ask. Then, because Atsumu is a little shit, he cries shamelessly. Who topped? Atsumu. A glare. Osamu's cheeks are still furiously red. Okay. Atsumu throws his hands up in surrender. Was just curious. He mumbles but can't hold back his grin. He bets it was Osamu. He's like 100% sure it was him. Atsumu turns around and Osamu rolls his eyes, smacking his brother on the back of his head so that the hair color splatters from the brush against the mirror. Atsumu snorts and watches as Osamu returns to dyeing his hair, supposedly focused on his work. Osamu tries to ignore his twin. What he can't suppress, however, is the curve at the corners of his mouth that forms into a cheeky grin on his lips. Atsumu realizes that despite all the embarrassment, there is a part of Osamu that is somehow proud. Atsumu bets Rin must be no different, although he doesn't even want to think about his stupid face. It's dumb to even ask that. Osamu starts eventually, and their eyes meet in the mirror. There's this mischievous glint in Osamu's gray-bluish eyes. Oh. Atsumu has a bad feeling. Curiously, he raises an eyebrow and waits for his brother to elaborate. Osamu pulls his lower lip between his teeth and pauses briefly, shifting his gaze away from his brother to give him the last strokes of blonde dye. Then, Rin did, Osamu says, and Atsumu jumps up and shrieks again. After deciding to avoid Kita's bar for the night, Atsumu leads the way to a somewhat shady but also very familiar bar in Osaka. It's quite packed but not too uncomfortable, loud but not annoying. The scent of smoke and liquor wafts through the air and it feels kind of good. Osamu adds to the atmosphere and lights himself a cigarette. Atsumu clicks his tongue and smacks his brother on the back of the head, making Osamu almost spit it out again and scowl at his twin. They are bickering when Rin arrives. He joins them as soon as his mission is over and leans his bow against a wall just behind him, next to Atsumu's katana. Atsumu makes a disgusted face at the look Suna and Osamu share. The thought of what they did in Kita's bar makes him want to throw up. God. He can never go back there. One drink in and it doesn't take long for a few familiar faces to appear, walking up to Atsumu and nodding at the empty seats at their table. Not surprising, given that the bar here is pretty packed and the only seats available are with the trio from Inarizaki. Just as Atsumu takes a sip of his drink, Mian saunters over with a familiar grin on his face. He slaps Atsumu on the back with a hearty laugh. It's been a while, kid. Mind if we crash with you for a bit? Mian asks. His tone is casual yet somehow expectant. Atsumu quirks an eyebrow, giving Mian a sidelong glance. Crash away, old man, Atsumu replies, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Just don't break any bones while you're at it. Inunaki grins slyly, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Hey, Atsumu, he begins, his tone teasing. You sure you can handle the competition? Mian here might outshine you with his charm. Rin and Osamu chuckle at Inunaki's jab, their amusement evident as they watch Atsumu's reaction. Atsumu scoffs, shooting the white-haired man a playful glare. Please, Inu-san, he retorts, rolling his eyes. I have enough charm to fill this whole damn bar. Mian's just lucky to be in my presence. Inunaki chuckles, shaking his head. Is that what you call it? Charm? He counters, his smirk widening. I always thought it was more like obnoxiousness. Rin, who had been observing the exchange with amusement, chimes in, siding with Inunaki. I hate to admit it, but I think he has a point. Atsumu, Rin says, a smirk playing on his lips. You're about as charming as a sack of rocks. Atsumu narrows his eyes, feigning offense. Gee, Thanks for the vote of confidence, Tsunarin, he retorts, his tone dripping with sarcasm. But I'll have you know, I'm as smooth as they come. Osamu interjects, unable to resist joining in on the banter. Smooth as sandpaper, maybe, he quips, earning a round of laughter from the group. Atsumu throws his hands up in mock exasperation, shooting a playful glare at his twin. You know what? Forget it, he says, feigning indignation. I don't need this kind of disrespect from you people. You simply can't appreciate true charm when you see it. Atsumu's exaggerated theatrics only elicit more laughter from the group as Mian, Inunaki, and a few others take their seats around the table, drawn in by the lively atmosphere. So, one drink in and they all end up together, as Osamu and Rin quickly realize that Atsumu's acquaintances from Osaka are quite fun, especially because they all have something in common. Every single one of them enjoys teasing Atsumu. So, who are Rin and Osamu to turn them down? 3 drinks later, Rin and Inunaki find themselves in a heated card game in which Rin beats him mercilessly and the twins can't help but grin foolishly, knowing full well that it's always a bad idea to play against Tsuna, that sly fox. Inunaki quickly learns his lesson and scowls at the cards in his hand. Atsumu leans back in his chair and shoots him a teasing grin. He can't help the snide comment that spills out of his mouth once Inunaki takes a good move against Rin. Say, Inu-san, are you finally learning to keep up with the big boys? Atsumu teases and Inunaki scoffs. A playful glint flickers in his eyes. Please, I've been keeping up just fine. Isn't it you who should be worried? What? Atsumu smirks a little pissed off. I'm not the one with a bad hand. Inunaki scowls. Say it louder, will you? Inunaki mutters, swapping some of his cards around before laying down 2 kings. Tsuna raises a brow, silently judging his move. Inunaki is so going to lose. Remind me again. Inunaki then smirks and glances back at Atsumu. How many men did Tsuna-kun have to take down on that mission with her? Osamu glances at Atsumu and quietly takes a drag of another cigarette. Atsumu rolls his eyes and waves Inunaki off. Who's even keeping track? No one fucking cares. Inu-san. But I do, Rin says slyly, lounging lazily beside Osamu. He joins with a smirk of his own. There were 10 of them, by the way. And here I thought you were the ace assassin. Osamu snorts. Ace assassin? My ass. Fuck you, Atsumu replies, shooting his brother and Tsuna a playful glare. Trust me, Tsunarin, I could take you down easy peasy before you'd even notice. In your dreams maybe. In my dreams, you're already dead. Whoa. Inunaki chuckles, shaking his head in mock disbelief and turning to Tsuna. And you call him your friend? I know, right? Scandalous. Tsuna places a hand over his chest. Careful there, Tsumu. You might hurt my feelings and all with that shit talk. Yeah. Atsumu grins. I'll make sure to send you a sympathy card. Osamu rolls his eyes but can't hide the smirk tugging at the corners of his lips. As if Tsumu could take down anyone without me holding his hand. How many will be able to get close to him on the next mission? Rin smirks, ready to make a bet. Please. Osamu snorts. Morons become too careless. Last time it was 10, next time it'll be 20. Yeah. Fuck you too, Samu. You know damn well that no one can get an inch on me when I'm real focused. Atsumu snarls. Been hard to tell lately, cause your 2 dickheads keep distracting me. When will it be time for me to strike out on my own again? I'm sick of you both. Once you can finally take someone down without me having to hold your hand. Atsumu flips his brother the middle finger and Rin laughs, leaning back in his chair with a knowing grin. Come on, Samu. You know Tsumu's got skills. He just needs a little encouragement. Encouragement? Atsumu raises an eyebrow. Is that what you call it? Rin? I call it babysitting. Potato. Rin shrugs, unfazed by Atsumu's jab. Either way, you wouldn't be able to finish a single job without us. We're like your emotional support. You know, rooting for you from the sidelines. Stepping in when your precious face gets a little hurt. Tsuna winks at Osamu. That is, if we're not distracted ourselves. You two are vile and make me sick. Tsunarin. Shut the fuck up. You sure know how to watch your tongue, kid. Mian remarks, chuckling slightly at the trio's banter. Casually leaning against the bar counter, he arches an eyebrow at Atsumu. His presence is calm and unobtrusive. Osamu chuckles softly, shaking his head. Tell me about it. Atsumu here has never been easy to handle in that regard. Guy's got a mouth like a sailor. Atsumu shoots his brother a mock glare before grinning mischievously. Hey, it's not my fault if the truth hurts, Samu. Mian's lips twitch with amusement as he reaches for his pack of cigarettes, casually sliding one out and placing it between his lips. With a subtle nod, he gestures towards Osamu's cigarette, silently asking for a light. Osamu returns the nod, a faint blush coloring his cheeks as he moves his mouth closer to the older man and holds the cigarette out for Mian to light his own. Atsumu can't help but notice the exchange, his gaze flickering between his brother and Mian before it settles on Rin. Rin's expression on the other hand is inscrutable, his features set in a tight line that hints at a simmering jealousy. Oh, he wouldn't be, would he? Sensing the tension, Atsumu leans back in his chair, casting a sidelong glance at Rin. He watches the exchange between Mian and his brother with interest, a playful smirk playing on his lips. Then, Atsumu leans in closer to his best friend, lowering his voice to a whisper. Something on your mind, Rin? He asks, his tone casual but laced with curiosity. Rin's jaw clenches slightly, his eyes narrowing as he regards Atsumu. Just wondering when we're gonna get rid of you, he replies curtly, his voice tinged with annoyance. Atsumu raises an eyebrow, unfazed by Rin's blunt remark. Oh, so now you're the one wanting to ditch me? Last time I checked, you were the one begging me to keep my things in check, he retorts, a playful smirk playing on his lips. Well, you do now, don't you? Rin's smile falters, and for a moment, the mask of nonchalance slips, revealing a glimpse of the turmoil beneath. Atsumu narrows his eyes and then he smirks. It's hard to believe that Mian, of all people, could throw someone like Rin off balance. He is and will probably always be infatuated with Osamu. Some things just never change. Maybe he should finally tie up these fucking loose ends. Inunaki cheers as he lays his next cards and Suna clicks his tongue in annoyance. He has indeed been distracted by Mian, who takes another drag of his cigarette with a knowing grin. Atsumu chuckles. Then, he pushes himself up from his seat. Seems like they're all doing just fine without him. Perhaps it's time for him to take his charm elsewhere. Preferably his bed. Yeah, sleep sounds great now. Alright, he says, looking at his brother and then at the rest of the group. I'm gonna call it a night and gonna get some beauty sleep. As if that would help your ugly face get prettier. Osamu mocks and Rin snorts. Atsumu rolls his eyes at Osamu's remark, but his lips curl into a shit-eating grin. Shut it, Samu. At least I don't look like I got hit by a truck. Osamu scoffs, but there's a hint of amusement in his eyes as he retorts. Says the one with the face only a mother could love. Rin chuckles at their banter, shaking his head in amusement. You two never change. Atsumu shrugs nonchalantly, his gaze shifting between Rin and his brother. Guess some things just never do. With a final wave to the group, Atsumu turns to Mian, who has been quietly observing the exchange. He takes one last drag of his cigarette before stubbing it out. Then, he tilts his head toward the door. Let me walk you out, kid, Mian says with a serious expression. Atsumu nods as he slips on his jacket, Kayumi's jacket, and follows Mian out of the bar. He tucks his hands into the warm pockets, hides half his face in the black collar, and breathes in the scent that still reminds him of the man he loves. Atsumu wonders how he's doing. He wonders if there are moments when Kayumi thinks of him too, because he will certainly always be on Atsumu's mind. Hey, just before they leave, Mian turns to Osamu with a playful grin. I've heard you're quite the cook. Ever thought about opening your own place? Osamu's eyes light up at the suggestion, a shy smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Actually, I have, just never found the right spot. Well, I know a few places in Osaka that might be worth checking out, Mian says, pulling out his next cigarette. God, this guy is a fucking chain smoker. I'll send you the details. Oh, thanks, Osamu says, gratitude evident in his voice. Meanwhile, Rin clenches his jaw again as a flicker of irritation crosses his features. Atsumu notices the tension and shoots Mian a questioning look because, how the fuck does he even know about Osamu wanting to open up his own shop? About them wanting to leave in Irizuki in the long run? Something's off. As they step outside the bar, Mian lights his cigarette, the smoke curling around him in the night air. Atsumu looks at him warily, the dim light from the bar illuminating his face making the old man look even older. He grins as he takes a drag, the cigarette clamped between his thumb and index finger. He sucks in a deep breath, then blows the smoke just next to Atsumu, nodding at him with a sharp smile. Spit it out, kid. What's on your mind? And oh, there are so many things that Atsumu wants to ask. How the hell do you know about Osamu opening a shop? Mian takes another long drag before responding, his expression almost unreadable. You wanna take a guess? Not really, because he's not here to play any games. Hardly anyone knows about their plans. Not even Kita or Aaron know that the twins are planning to leave in Irizuki sooner or later. So how the hell did Mian get wind of it? Was Atsumu being spied on? SakuAtsu, Mian reveals then, and Atsumu's heart stops for a couple of beats. What? He asked me to keep an eye on you and your brother, saying that you might end up in Osaka in the long run anyway. Huh? The hell does he mean? In Atsumu's mind, a flurry of scenarios unfolds, each one a potential path that Kayumi must have considered as well. One scenario stands out, Atsumu traveling to Sendai to carry out the contract, targeting Kayumi's cousin, Komori. This, Atsumu suspects, might have prompted Kayumi to hire Mian to spy on him and Osamu in the first place. In the hypothetical event that Atsumu reaches Sendai, two outcomes seem most plausible. First, Kayumi could have been forewarned by Mian, allowing him to safeguard Komori and thwart Atsumu's attempt, possibly resulting in Atsumu's demise. This, Atsumu admits, is the most likely outcome. After all, He had already had Kayumi's gun pressed against his forehead once, hadn't he? Alternatively, Atsumu could have succeeded in his mission, eliminating Komori and paving the way for a new life in Osaka with Osamu, as they had often discussed before Osamu's abduction. It's a possibility that Kayumi couldn't afford to ignore, hence his decision to confide in Mian about the twins' aspirations. However, a third scenario remains: inaction. If Atsumu had not acted at all, Kayumi would have been forced to seek a resolution to the contract, perhaps through negotiation or other means, offering himself to save the ones that he loves. He considered it all. When did he contact you? Atsumu's voice is just above a whisper. Months ago, Mian replies. When you returned to Inarizaki. Atsumu's mind races, trying to process the revelation. He can't figure it out until he understands why Kayumi was able to save him in Tokyo in the first place. All this time, he never took his eyes off Atsumu. Even when he knew that he would be no threat to him or Komori, he never let Atsumu out of his sight. And Atsumu thinks of every time he was so close to handing his life over to fate. Every time he had already given up on ever seeing these real onyx eyes again, shimmering green in the dark light of the moon. This last time, this last damn encounter, when Kayumi trembled with worry, because he knew it all, didn't he? He knew how miserable Atsumu was without him. The realization sends a shiver down his spine. And that's how he knew I'd be in Tokyo. Yeah. Mian nods again, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. He didn't expect me to hire you and make you work with me. Atsumu raises an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. So, what did he expect you to do? Because if Kayumi never wanted that, he must have been incredibly pissed at Mian for sending Atsumu off to Tendo and Terashima. And as sheepish as Mian stands in front of him, Atsumu must be right in his thoughts. Still, the question remains what Kayumi's true intention was. He told me to incapacitate you if you ever started heading back to Sendai. As expected. But, Mian trails off, taking another drag of his cigarette before continuing. His expression is straight. You never did, and well, he wasn't really surprised when I told him you weren't going any further than Osaka. So, he told me to just tone it down and keep an eye on you instead. Atsumu clicks his tongue in irritation, a mix of frustration and disbelief swirling within him. Kayumi really wanted to get him out of the way. The thought sends a surge of anger coursing through Atsumu, but he pushes it aside and focuses on the present. Bastards really wanted you to finish me off. He wanted me to stop you in case you went after his cousin. He didn't want me to kill you. Mian exhales slowly, looking Atsumu straight in the eye. It's a difference. Kid, stop me. Why did Kayumi know everything about him, but Atsumu knew nothing about Kayumi? Once again, he was 10 steps ahead of Atsumu, and fuck, that pisses him off. It's so annoying that Kayumi was prepared for anything that could have happened, that he predicted all of it, that he accepted to sacrifice his life for Atsumu months ago. Is that why he didn't just shoot him back then? Atsumu sighs. Then, he screws his eyes shut and pinches the bridge of his nose. After you returned from Tokyo, he blew off the deal. Mian reveals. He decided to join the Adlers. The deal was no longer meaningful to him. He asked me to help you and your brother start over in Osaka. Said you'd pull it off sooner than you thought. Sooner? At the comment, Atsumu's gaze snaps back to Mian. He frowns. Why would we do that? Mian takes one last drag of his cigarette before stubbing it out on the pavement. Then, he turns his gaze back to Atsumu and shrugs. That's not for me to find out, kid. It bugs Atsumu. It bugs him to be in the dark, not knowing what's going on or what's happening. Why does Kayumi assume that Atsumu and Osamu would leave Inarizaki earlier than planned? It makes no sense. Still strolling through Osaka, Atsumu pulls his jacket tighter around him as the wind whistles through the streets and sweeps through his hair, his face half hidden in his collar. Maybe it's not just the cold night that sends a shiver down his spine. Maybe it's also the fear of the future, of not knowing what awaits him. And normally he wouldn't care. Atsumu isn't one to let himself be thrown off balance so easily, especially not by an uncertain future. No, but this is different. Different because Kayumi knows something that Atsumu doesn't know, and it concerns Inarizaki. Or rather, it concerns him and his brother. And Kayumi could have told him back in Tokyo, but he didn't. Instead, he left without a word, leaving behind more questions than ever and this stubborn, deep-seated pain that Atsumu just can't shake off. An unanswered confession, an open question as to how Kayumi feels about all this. About him. Why didn't he kill Atsumu when they saved Osamu? Why did he only want to stop Atsumu and not kill him if he ever came to Sendai? Did he already expect that Atsumu would not kill Komori? How could he be so sure? Did Kayumi already know how Atsumu felt about him? What are Kayumi's feelings for Atsumu? Does he even have any? Atsumu comes to a halt and pulls his phone out of his pocket. He scrolls through his contacts and hovers his finger over Kayumi's name. his heart pounding loudly, his digits trembling. Kyumi is in Tokyo. No idea what will happen to him if Ashijima finds out that Atsumu of all people is trying to contact him. And honestly, Atsumu shouldn't risk it. Not when Kyumi has put so much on the line for him, and the message probably wouldn't even get through to begin with. Kyumi has blocked him for sure. Atsumu puts his phone away and leans against the wall of a building. He sighs and runs his hand through his hair, frowning as he scowls at the street. This is total bullshit. How could it even come to this? Why did Atsumu accept the contract to kill Komori? Why did he allow Osamu to accompany him in his condition? Why did Atsumu get involved with Kyumi in the first place? Of all people, the man he should never have cared about. Why did Kyumi agree? Why did he never kill Atsumu? Why did Atsumu fall in love? Why? Oh. Someone yells and rips Atsumu out of his thoughts. He follows the unknown voice and tilts his head up to stare at the moonlit sky, watching someone jumping down right at him. Atsumu's eyes widen. His heart slumps down. Oh, shit. Catch me. What the? Next, the guy comes crashing down right into Atsumu's arms and Atsumu releases a little oof at the impact when he catches him. He holds the man in his arms and freezes when the guy winks and smirks at him. His throat goes dry like the Sahara, his heart rate speeding up in a slight panic. His arm is draped around Atsumu's neck, a katana in each of his hands, the blade sharpened, waiting to draw blood. The man dares to snuggle closer to Atsumu and run his index finger over Atsumu's chest, never letting his katana out of his grasp. Then his grin widens as he murmurs, "Nice to meet you, Atsumu-kun," and Atsumu's breath catches in his throat. Komori.